So of course, we all need some classic horror movies to stream at home on our couches this October, and we have got some massive horror movies dropping on streaming this October. So let's go through what they are. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Mad Blood. Today I want to talk about 8 of the biggest horror movies coming to streaming this October. Now, outside of a couple movies on this list, there are a couple that I would consider new. They were released in 2024, but most of the movies on this list are classics in my opinion. They're massive movies that were very successful that will be coming to streaming services this October. So if it's a Friday night and you just want to kind of chill, you can say to yourself, oh yeah, that guy Matt, he posted that video recently about some cool horror movies that I can watch this October. Oh yeah, let's go ahead and toss one of those on. All right, the first movie that I want to tell you guys about that's going to be coming to streaming this October is going to be Halloween 2018, which is going to release on Netflix October 1st of this year. So this whole like David Gordon Green Blumhouse trilogy in the Halloween franchise is a wild one, full of some ups and downs, some weird twists and turns, totally different tones throughout a lot of the different movies. But to me, Halloween 2018 is by far the best movie out of those three, and I would consider it one of the best Halloween movies in the entire franchise, without a doubt. The tone of Halloween 2018, if you enjoy the original from 1978, the tone of 2018 is very similar to that in a lot of ways. So if that's your thing, then you're probably going to enjoy this a lot. It's also the highest grossing Halloween movie in the entire franchise. Super successful when it came out, definitely. So Halloween 2018, just to give you kind of a little rundown of what the movie's about. So it takes place 40 years after the original movie, following Michael Myers' killing spree in Haddonfield. There's that huge gap. Laurie Strode has been kind of preparing and getting ready for a time where Michael could potentially come back. So you've got this Laurie who's like more grizzled, more wise, older and stuff. So I enjoy that aspect of it, and I think Jamie Lee Curtis does a great job in 2018 as well. Also, something massive with this movie is this is one of the best Michael Myers, without a doubt, in the entire franchise. We got James Jude Courtney playing Michael Myers in this movie. A great new look, a great mask. He's scary, and it's just, there's a lot of cool like cat and mouse scenes in this movie. Some great kills. So yeah, October 1st on Netflix, definitely check out Halloween 2018. All right, so the next few movies will also be releasing on Netflix, but specifically the next movie that I want to talk about is going to be It Chapter 2, which was released in 2019, which will be dropping on Netflix October 1st. So if you've seen Chapter 1, obviously you should definitely watch Chapter 2, but if you're a fan of just Stephen King, It in general, this is a movie I could definitely recommend, though it's a very long movie, but surprisingly with the movie, it is done very well, regardless of it being like damn near 3 hours. All of the scenes are pulled off very, very well, and I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the budget. The first movie was so successful. This movie was also very successful, so they gave them a huge budget to just be able to pull off these effects and everything going on. But yeah, it's a very entertaining movie despite it being really, really long. So of course, like, this is the second of the 2 movies in the adaptation of Stephen King's 1986 novel, It. And yeah, this is one of those movies that has cracked the top 10 highest grossing horror movies ever. So obviously very successful when it came out, but a solid cast in this movie from top to bottom. You've got Bill Hader, James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain, but overall a very good cast in this movie. And of course, like, if you're a fan of the original It, how is Pennywise in these 2 movies? And Pennywise is played by Bill Skarsgård. Not as good as the original Pennywise in my opinion, but still very good, very creepy. There is a lot of CGI in both of these movies, but I think it's pulled off mostly well and is something that's enjoyable for me. So in comparison to Chapter 1, this movie takes place 27 years after Chapter 1. The kids that we follow in the first chapter are now adults for most of the movie. So you get that different dynamic of kind of like where they're at in life, what's kind of happened to them since these traumatic events happened to them earlier. Some people have gone this way, some people have gone this way. So following that story of them, and then also kind of like following them going through their old town again, especially for the folks that have left the town, is kind of interesting for me. But yeah, obviously one of the biggest aspects of this movie is us following Pennywise once again, terrorizing Derry, Maine again. and just scaring the shit out of everybody. There's going to be a lot of jump scares in this movie, so, and a lot of good effects overall, I would say. So yeah, It Chapter 2, you can check that out on Netflix October 1st. And up next is going to be another movie dropping October 1st. So October 1st is going to be a busy day for all of you, but it's going to be one of the all-time classics, Psycho from 1960. So Alfred Hitchcock, of course. So if you're not really that familiar with Hitchcock's work, or if you haven't seen any of Hitchcock's movies, Psycho's a good place to start. It's an interesting story, great acting, of course. It's a story that kind of blends a lot of elements from some different genres. It's not just horror, it's not just slasher, it's got some thriller aspects and some other things kind of woven into the story too, which is cool. But essentially the plot for Psycho goes like this. You've got a secretary on the run for embezzlement and kind of just takes refuge at this secluded California motel owned by a repressed man and his overbearing mother. And yeah, that's the story. You've got multiple really fun twists in this story. If you're into classic horror movies like this, I mean, it's from 1960, of course, and you haven't seen Psycho, I mean, you've probably heard about it, I'm sure, but still, you gotta watch it. And yeah, if you're just rewatching it or seeing it for the first time, again, Psycho will be dropping on Netflix October 1st. All right, now to give you a little break from October 1st, you know, let your retinas kind of recover from watching so many damn movies. You know, we're going to jump ahead to October 11th. On October 11th on Netflix again, you are going to be getting Scream, the original from 1996. What can I say about Scream? One of my personal favorite horror movies ever made, a slasher, of course, a stacked cast from top to bottom. There's going to be a moment in that opening scene that's going to absolutely blow your mind, probably. But Scream, if you haven't seen it, surprisingly, Scream is one of the most important horror movies ever made. In the 90s, the horror genre was kind of in a weird place with a lot of weird movies, and Scream really revitalized the genre and also added so many new aspects to it. Scream added that aspect also of you can poke fun at horror movies within your horror movie, that whole meta thing. But Scream's also just, it's not a silly horror movie. It also has those meta aspects to it. But it's also scary as hell. A great Ghostface reveal overall, fun characters, great settings, and really one of the best horror movies ever made with one of the best openings in all of movie history. So yeah, the original Scream, if you want to check it out, it's going to come to Netflix on October 11th. And sorry, you won't get much of a break because the next day on October 12th on Netflix as well, you're going to be getting A Quiet Place Part 2 from 2021. Highly recommend seeing the first one, of course, before this one. They definitely continue that story. But yeah, A Quiet Place Part 2, another very, very successful horror movie that, to me, is an incredible sequel. One of the best horror sequels that you will see, especially if you're into post-apocalyptic kind of stuff. And what's also cool about this movie is we do get some flashbacks in this movie to kind of build this world a little bit more, to let you know kind of how everything went down. How did this world become so screwed up, and just how it all kind of unfolded a little bit, which is fun. It builds off of that story. And I love that it takes place, most of the movie takes place right after the first movie, just continues that story, because if you've seen the first movie, you're left with a massive cliffhanger. So yeah, getting to just continue right after that is great. And one of the best things about the A Quiet Place franchise, and this movie specifically, is the cast in every single movie is very good. In this movie specifically, we get Cillian Murphy added to this already great cast of characters, which just makes the movie even better, makes you even more invested in this world and these cool places that they go, and just how gritty everything is as well. But this movie really, to me, is we get to see more of an evolution of the character Regan in this movie, which is great. A character that you want to root for, a character who's just really good in this franchise overall. But one thing also about Quiet Place Part 2 is there are some intense moments in this movie, and they just layer them on top of each other. A lot of movies, you get kind of an intense moment, but it's just one moment. Not in this movie. You're getting a scene over here, and they just keep, and a scene over there, and they just keep flashing back and forth, and you're white knuckling it the entire time, and it's pulled off really well, shot really well. This movie also, if you kind of thought the first one was maybe a little bit slow for you, I didn't, loved it. But the second movie does have a little bit more action and a little bit more, I guess you could say, going on. But anyways, yep, A Quiet Place Part 2 dropping on Netflix October 12th. All right, enough with the Netflix releases. We are moving right along to Max, which is going to be MaXXXine, which is dropping October 18th on Max, which is kind of this bookend to this X trilogy, a trilogy that I personally have really enjoyed, especially the first movie, X, Pearl, and then MaXXXine. All movies with very different tones, very different looks, and just a very different feel. So we get this 80s aesthetic in MaXXXine, of course, right? And what's cool about MaXXXine, though, is it's not, although I love Stranger Things and I love movies and TV shows like that kind of bright, vibrant, almost like fantastical approach to the 80s or look to the 80s. MaXXXine is a very like realistic approach to the 80s. It shows like the dark underbelly to Los Angeles in the 80s. Also shows the cool stuff as well, but MaXXXine just feels like a very realistic look at the 80s in Hollywood and just Hollywood in general, if you like that, to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit and see how the movies are made, see how casting goes about, see how kind of the behind the scenes conversations go a little bit here and there. But keep in mind, if you haven't seen MaXXXine yet, something that's very important with this movie is you have to kind of be ready for the tone of this movie and be prepared for a specific tone. So some people think after watching this movie, they walk away and they think it's kind of silly or over the top and ridiculous. Like X was in the first movie in the trilogy, was inspired by Texas Chainsaw in some ways and just slashers just in general. This movie, though, is supposed to feel kind of like that 80s murder mystery cop kind of a thing. It's got some lines from the 80s that you would recognize from cop movies from the 80s, which now, don't age that all that well, of course, but they intentionally put them in the movie to kind of just add that flavor, add that sort of approach, like just a little bit of that 80s cheese that you would expect from an 80s cop murder mystery type of a movie. Me personally, I really enjoyed MaXXXine. I do wish they would have gone a little bit more of a slasher approach to it though. But still, MaXXXine is a very good time, a very good cast, a bigger budget in this movie than the other two. We're adding Kevin Bacon to the cast, who's great in this movie as well. But one of the biggest reasons why I enjoy this trilogy is because of the director Ty West, who's the spearhead of this whole trilogy. Ty West just has such a passion for not only movie making, but horror just in general. You feel like every line, every frame from Ty West is intentional. It just feels that way. Nothing is sloppy, and there's so much passion behind the project, and I think that comes across on screen. But anyways, there you go. MaXXXine dropping on Max October 18th. Okay, so the next movie will also be on Max. This was a 2024 release, was released in theaters just a few months ago, which is going to be M. Night Shyamalan's Trap, which is coming to Max on October 25th. I think the best way to kind of explain this movie and encapsulate it is to read the plot synopsis. So let's do that. A father and his teen daughter attend a pop concert only to realize they've entered the center of a dark and sinister event. So Trap is kind of a weird one for me because there's some things in this movie that I really like. There's also some things in this movie that I really, really hate. But I wanted to talk about Trap because, there's a chance that a lot of you out there will watch this movie and really like it. A lot of people have, and there's also some people that kind of hate the movie as well. Me personally, not a big fan of this movie. Although, love Josh Hartnett. He's a great actor. I love a lot of the work that he's done. But I will say this is some of the worst acting from him and just the worst script writing just in general for his character that I've seen, which was disappointing for me. But this movie's kind of like a showcase in a way for M. Night Shyamalan's daughter's singing career. That's what it kind of feels like to me. But there is some moments here and there with some tension and some other things going on. You've got like this serial killer aspect trapped in this arena. And that's what they're doing. That's why the movie's called Trapped, is because they're trying to trap this serial killer once and for all and finally capture him. But there are a lot of moments towards the end of this movie where you kind of have to suspend your disbelief a bit. Some moments where you say, what? Why? Huh? Like, what is that? What's going on here? But still, I think if you're into thrillers especially, there's going to be some of you that really like this movie. It's an M. Night Shyamalan movie, so there's a little bit of twisty stuff in here. Don't expect a huge, massive twist or anything like that. But there are going to be some people out there watching this video who will enjoy Trap, so I wanted to talk about it. So yeah, Trap is coming to Max October 25th. All right, so the last movie I want to mention is going to be Alien Romulus, which is going to be coming to Amazon October 14th. Unfortunately, not for free on Prime. It will be $29.99, but still, if you're a fan of the Alien franchise, I highly recommend seeing Romulus. I saw it twice in theaters, once in the normal theater and once in IMAX. Definitely a very flawed movie, but still just a fun adventure. So let me go ahead though and read the plot synopsis of Romulus for you if you haven't seen the movie, so you know what it's about. So it says, while scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station, a group of young space colonists come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. And yeah, typically the most popular movies in the Alien franchise are the original Alien and Aliens, the first two movies. So this movie, Romulus, is supposed to take place between those two movies. In a sense, you're going to get a lot of face huggers in this movie. A fun cast. There's a couple characters that you're really going to enjoy, in my opinion, that I did really enjoy. Kaylee Spaney as Rain in this movie also, I think, is very good. You might recognize her from Civil War, which is a movie that came out recently, is great. Also, you have this character, Andy, who's one of the more likable characters in the story. At times, is like the only character making decent decisions. One of my gripes with Romulus is the cast is a bit young. So yes, I know every horror movie, especially every movie really in general, there are some stupid decisions, but with this movie, it does get a little bit frustrating at times that 90% of the cast is just doing stupid things for the entirety of the movie for the most part. But I will say Rain's character does make some badass decisions in the movie at some point. But one thing that's great about this movie, and something that I really wanted when I went into watching this movie, is it does have that kind of grit and grime, kind of similar to the original Alien, which is great. We're on this mining colony for a little bit of the movie, and that has kind of like this blue collar grit to it, which, like I said, definitely reminds you of the original Alien. So that little aspect of it is good. To me, though, with Romulus, it does check one of those massive boxes to me that makes the movie very rewatchable. Like I already said, I've seen this movie twice. I wanted to see it 3 times in theaters because just overall it was a good time. Like I said, there's a few things that if you hit these, that makes that movie rewatchable for me. And Romulus definitely hits one of these. You either have things like a great story, great action, great characters, or they just transport you into kind of like this alternate reality that's just fun to be immersed in. And for me, that's one of the biggest things with Alien Romulus is when I go back and rewatch this movie, and if you're going to watch this movie for the first time, I think you're going to be transported into a world that to me is just fun and gritty and looks cool. I mean, I just want to watch like videos of this world and just see everything with the ships and the mining colony and all that. And I just think that's a great aspect of the movie. But really, in the end, you're going to get a fun Alien movie, in my opinion, with lots of face huggers, some great visuals, and a cool world just overall. But anyways, thanks everybody for watching my 8 massive movies that are going to be dropping on streaming this October. That, you know, like I said, if you're going to sit down, cozy, you don't want to go out on a Friday night, Saturday night, and you just want a horror movie to watch during October, these are some movies you can definitely watch. And most of them, in my opinion, are definitely classics that I think you will enjoy. But anyways, if you want some more content from me right now, go ahead and check out one of these videos next to me. If you don't want to miss future content, then make sure you subscribe. But my name is Matt, and I will talk to you in the next one.